Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am just gonna be talking mostly about my dad. Because right now I am actually writing a script for my first true crime video. But I realized that's going to take a minute, and so I didn't want to not upload at all. So I'm just gonna talk about the guy who made me, the guy who gave me half of my personality and made me the funny person I am today. So my dad was this really tall, really cool, like cholo Mexican guy. And he was great. He was great. He wasn't perfect. He suffered his whole life he battled, I guess, with drug addiction. And he also battled with alcoholism. But I would say mostly he tried to be the best parent he could be. He tried to do the best he could, but he didn't really have anybody to tell him how to be a man, how to be a father. And that definitely carried with him throughout his life. He faced a lot of abuse himself, and he never worked through it. He didn't go to therapy or anything like that. And he had a son, my brother, that was born before me. And he passed away when he was a baby. And my dad never sought help for that. He never, he didn't do the things that he should have done in that time. And I feel like if they would have addressed it then, maybe it would have been different. But they didn't. And so my dad, he just kind of, he already had it rough before that. He had been an alcoholic since I believe the age of 12. But after Josh died, his son, it really affected him. And it destroyed him. It truly did. And he tried to just drink it away to make it disappear. And that just wasn't helpful. And it wasn't good for him to do. And so he had this great loss, kind of tried to drink it away, had more kids, and eventually had me. And the story that I was told growing up, my father, he had a big scar on his chest. It went from here all the way down to his stomach, because he was gutted in the Vegas streets. And so when that happened, it was right when my gender was going to be announced. And my mom ran up to him and told him, "Joey, you're having your girl, you're having your girl." And so my dad pulled through, and he lived for me so that he could see his first daughter. That's the legend. I mean, I'm not sure if that's how it happened, because I wasn't born. But he always told me that he lived for me. And my dad had 6 boys. 5 living, 6 boys. And only me. And I can't speak on my brother's experiences with my father. I can't speak on any of that because it wasn't my life. But for me, my father was everything to me. He was my best friend. He was my confidant. He was everything to me. He was my idol. I loved him so much. He could do basically nothing wrong in my eyes. And I did see him do a lot wrong. But I was Dad's princess, you know? And I would just justify it and justify it and justify it no matter what. And he wasn't a perfect husband. And he wasn't always a perfect father. But I have a lot of memories with him that just warm my heart even thinking about. And he really made me feel special. He showed me how somebody should love you and not to accept less. And that's what I deserved. And that's what I should have. And he always doted on me. He always loved me. He gave me anything I wanted growing up. If I wanted it, Bear was gonna have it. You know, that was my nickname growing up. If Bear wanted it, Bear was gonna have it. And I always thought there was something really beautiful about that. Because we didn't have a lot, you know. We were a low-income family. Very low income. As I've shared on my channel before, I was a shelter kid. And so, what I mean by that is early memories, we moved around from state to state every once in a while. And we would go live in shelters. And despite that, despite not having money for basically anything, he always made sure I had what I wanted and I had what I needed. And he definitely had favorites. He definitely played favoritism. And I was definitely one of his favorites. And he did show me that quite often. Like, I remember there was this time and it was a Barbie doll. And it was $100 because it had a camera in it or whatever. And I begged for it, you know, from my mom. My mom said no. And so then I walked up to my dad and I was like, hey, can I get this Barbie doll? And I was like, what'd your mom say? And I was like, she said yeah. She didn't. She said no. But he was like, okay, Mia. And he took me to go get it. And I might insert pictures of my father somewhere in this video. I'm not sure. I guess you'll know if I end up doing it or not. But my dad was tall. He was beautiful. He was kind. He had an open heart. And he wasn't always the greatest. Sure. I saw him do some things that were not great. I'm definitely on the way he treated my mother growing up. You don't treat your wife like that. And it was crazy because he'd look at me and he'd tell me, don't you ever tolerate somebody putting their hands on you, or don't you ever tolerate somebody yelling at you or treating you bad, or... But then I looked very similar to my mother as well. I look like a mix of both of them. But I'd see him, and after saying all these things about how I'm beautiful, I'm wonderful, I'm great, I'd see him go treat my mother crazy. And it did affect me growing up, and it affected my mind. And it affected how I saw him. And then he would treat some of my brothers not great. And it's a shame because they look back on my father now that he's gone, because he passed. And they look back on it and they say, oh, anytime I have a memory with Dad, I'm flooded by 100 bad memories. Anytime I have a bad memory of my dad, I'm flooded by all of the great memories that we had together. Because he truly was my best friend. He truly was everything to me. And I cannot emphasize enough how he molded me to be who I am. Because through anything, I will find the funny. Through anything, I will find the joy. But then, when I'm all by myself, and everybody else is gone, that loneliness hits me. That sadness hits me. And I remember everything I've been through. And I saw that a lot with him too. He would make these great jokes and just make you laugh. And he was so funny. And sometimes I would wonder why he felt like he needed to be that way. He was almost like, you know, the class clown in school? That's kind of how he was. But all the time. And that's kind of what I became as well. Like, I just wanted people around me to be happy. Because I knew what it was to be scared, alone, and so unhappy. He would like make up these little songs and little things, and just like, there's so many beautiful memories that we made together. Losing him was one of the hardest things in the world to me. And it was slow and painful, and you almost saw it coming. We did see it coming. Every time my dad would stop talking to us, my mom, back when I lived with her, she would look him up at the hospitals and stuff. Just like hoping to find him. Not hoping to find him, but hoping for an answer. And we always made the joke that he had 9 lives up until he didn't. I still remember, because my father passed away from an overdose of fentanyl. And losing him before he died, after my parents broke up, because they broke up when I was about, how old was I? 13? 14? 13 or 14. After that, he spent the rest of his life on the street, homeless. Because he said that it was better to go home to the street than to go home to an empty house, a quiet house. After always coming home to such a vibrant house, full of children, full of life, that he just could not bring himself to go home to nothing. And that was a really heartbreaking thing to hear, because I wanted him to find somewhere to be. I didn't want him to be sleeping on the street. And after he died, I spiraled. I did. I lost my mind. I was living with an ex-boyfriend who I will not say the name of or whatever. But I was living with my ex-boyfriend, and me and him had had our difficulties for a long time before that. But losing him I completely snapped. I mean, I really did. And me and my ex, we had a lot of mutual abuse. But near the end there, the second time around, it was mostly on my side. Especially once my dad died. And we had to go our separate ways and stuff. And I had to go be by myself after my dad died. And I made some very bad decisions. I ended up falling into drugs. And funny enough, I was doing the exact same drug that killed him. And I think it's because I wanted to die. Just to be with him. And I found that I didn't have any purpose without him. And I didn't want to be around if my dad wasn't. And it was really hard having to accept that I'll never get another phone call from him saying, "Hey, Mija, how are you doing?" Or, "Hey, Mija, what's going on?" Or, "Hey, Widow, how's it going? How's it going, Bear?" Knowing I would never hear his voice again. Talking to me, loving me, checking in on me, or even yelling at me. Broke me for a very long time. And I struggled with it, and it hurt. And I had to come to terms with it. But it was extremely difficult for me. And I had to go through a lot of bullshit for a long time until I could, until I could accept that that was the way my life was going, that it wasn't going to change, and that me dying wouldn't bring him back. It would just bring more pain onto my family who already had a great loss. And that was really hard. Extremely hard for me. But I'm now, I'm about, let's see, I'm about 3 years clean off fentanyl. And I'm about 2.5 years? No. I don't know. I never took like a sober date. I just stopped using hard drugs. And I've never looked back. I see my father as a cautionary tale. He only lived to be 49 years old. He lived life so fast. And we all saw his death coming before it came. Years before it came. And it made me realize that I need to be strong and I need to keep going. Because I never want my family to feel as devastated as they did last time. I don't want them to ever have to deal with another overdose in the family. And that was what keeps me clean and will continue to keep me clean. Just thinking about my father. Because, I mean, he truly was something. He really was. And he always saw something great in me. And even though he's dead, one day, I know that I will make him very proud. And I already have. But I will continue to make him proud. And I truly, truly love him with all my heart. And I couldn't be happier that he was my father. Rest in peace, Dad. I'll love you forever. You'll forever be my best friend. And I miss you every single day.